Welcome to Through the Eyes of a Maine Guide. Every journey holds a story. By sharing the wisdom of those who came before us, we keep their legacy alive for generations to come. Join me, Brennan Lane, as we explore the wild through the eyes of a Maine Guide. Welcome back to another episode of Through the Eyes with a Maine Guide with your host, Brennan Lane. And today I got two special guests. We're down here in Grand Lake Stream at Grand Lake Lodge with Paul Laney being a special host and welcomed us in with open arms. I don't know if he knew what he got himself into or not, but
oh, it's all good.
And on the other side here, we got Roger Milligan, old-time local from the area, and he's going to share some of his history with us today and some of the, as he says, stories that might be stretched a little bit there, but we're going to listen to him and we're going to enjoy it, hopefully. Thank you, Roger.
Well, one of the guy's talents or something you've got to give me a little training on before we get started is the line between truth and colorful truth and, and the rest of the stories that come out.
Yeah. Well, any true story, whether it's a hunting tale or a fishing tale, there's always that little bit of exaggeration that makes it that much better. Yeah. So, Roger, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself there and a little background on you there before we get started.
So I was born in 42, right here in town, and I grew up here basically my entire life. When I moved out of the area, out of town, it was for employment with the state mostly, but my entire career was spent in state. My main career was in state government. I worked for the warden service temporarily when I was 18, and then I transferred to the Maine Forest Service, and that's where I spent my career. I spent 32 years in the Maine Forest Service, and that was all in the Fire Control Division. And I started that as a fire warden. There wasn't rangers back then, with the responsibility right here in Grand Lake Stream. I replaced another native named Donald Chambers. To me, and from there I moved up. I was drafted in the service in the mid '60s, in the Vietnam era, and when I get out, I went to work as a district ranger for the Forest Service. And then I moved up through my career to regional ranger and air operations officer. But I always had Eastern Maine, the Grand Lake Stream, was always in my jurisdiction for my entire career. So, and from then, when I got done retired from the Forest Service, I continued my career into a professional forestry position as a consultant forester, managing private woodlots, and doing some contract work for the Indian tribes on their timberlands, and for the timber companies and local woods contractors. And that pretty much covers my experience, but growing up, I lived a big part of my youth in lumber camps, probably from the time I was, until I was a late teenager. And I lived in the camps during the logging area when they were still doing river drives. On this watershed in most areas of the state, in the 50s and in very early 60s in some places. So, but I was involved here, the last river drives of logs or pulpwood in the Grand Lake Stream or St. Croix watershed was done by my family, my grandfather and my father. And they had lumber camps located on all the lakes, and pretty much the whole watershed in what they call the river towns along the New Brunswick border, on the east branch of the St. Croix, and then all the lakes on this branch of the St. Croix was lumbered, and the lumber went down by water. Then in the late 50s, there was a big push on opening up road systems to the remote areas, and the trucking started. So that pretty much ended moving wood in the rivers for two different reasons. One was environmental reasons, a lot of pressure from the public, and the other was access of the wood. they didn't have, there was a lot of wood lost. It wasn't the most efficient way to take timber to the mills for long distances. And so then the trucking took over.
Now, when you cut the wood back then, would you cut like in the winter and then get it to the edge of the lake? Or how'd that all work, Roger?
Primarily, probably, I would just guess 80 or 90% of the timber that went into the mills was cut in the winter back then because of water transportation primarily.
Right.
And even other than that, it was moved by some of the first commercial trucks and by animals, by horses. And winter was the efficient time to build roads because you could build them on frozen ground and ice. So that was a huge factor too of doing winter logging.
Right.
They didn't have the equipment and stuff to move gravel long distances to build high-class roads. And
So, like, in the summertime, was logging still a thing, like, through the summer and the fall when it wasn't snow and freeze-up wasn't taking place?
a big percentage of it still took place, but there was mostly scaled down to local woodsmen for cutters in the woods, and there was a lot of Canadian immigrant cutters in this area, at least in my career, from the 40s, 50s on. But there was smaller operations in areas that was accessible to roads in the summer. So there was still considerable logging took place, and as the years went by and roads got built into the remote areas with valuable timber, then that it increased the amount of timber that was cut in the summer. I refer to timber as all kinds of wood products, logs and pulpwood.
Now, like, with that being said, and you said that your grandfather and your father were on the last drives, were you old enough at that time to, like, participate in any of that, or?
Not to be an active worker. I was just an early teenager on the very last of it. So,
Now,
but I was actually witness to anybody that lived in Grand Lake Stream up until about 1959, I think, might have been the last drive. Then all the kids, everybody, it was like the spring fair for a week or two.
yeah, so it was a big community event.
It wasn't all good. There was good things about the fishing that it caused. The fishermen liked it because they'd have a full head of water in the lakes.
Right.
And then they'd open the gates early mornings and start the drive for the day. And they usually didn't use maximum water because they saved that to clean the river out from log jams and stuff that wouldn't go every day. But they'd lower the gates every evening, and for that evening, some of the pools in the river would fill pretty full of fish.
Right.
Because a lot of the fish went down with the
Sure.
with the drive, so the pools would be full of fish in the evenings
Huh.
on the river, just for short periods. You never knew where they was going to be.
Right. That's pretty neat.
But, the young kids always knew where they'd be. It was right below the dam. It was right below the dam.
Yeah.
You might have caught your limit or two back during the day, is what you're saying?
Pardon?
You might have caught a limit or two back in the day, then is what you're saying.
Yeah, there was a certain amount with the kids that just, lived for the river and the woods around town.
Right.
Other ones didn't. They were like the sports and chasing the girls.
Right.
But I spent considerable time on the river, and there was other boys my age that was probably better fishermen than I was, or loved it more. So most of them aren't living now. So one of them was Johnny Brown. I don't
Johnny
know
Brown.
Johnny.
Oh, yeah. And my dad used to chum around with Johnny when he would come up here, spend his summers, and him and Johnny would fish the stream together a lot.
I remember your dad, but I don't remember you being around then. But I remember your dad and the cabin they lived in over at the end of the last cabin on the right.
Yeah. But he'd
So
spend his summers.
What year was that? Could you tell me?
Well, so that would have been in the late...
in the 50s.
It would have been the late 50s. My grandfather owned that cabin with 7 other people. They all worked in the shoe factory in Gardner. They called it the Grand Lake Hunting Club.
Yeah.
And they would, so that's how I ended up at Pio, was my dad, would spend his summers here. And then when I got old enough, he started bringing me up here. But him and Johnny were pretty good friends.
Yeah.
My dad said they used to raise a little hell too. They used to do little fish drives in the canal where there'd be some fish stuck in the canal there, and my dad said that one of them would wait at the bottom with a net, and the other one would start running down through the canal, and they'd drive the fish down.
The canal was only deep enough to float small barges. Probably it was 3-4 feet at the most in it.
Right.
And that wood, they had the separate gate and dam to supply the water for the hatchery.
Yeah.
That would be full of fish.
He said if they couldn't catch them with a fly rod, they'd get them that way.
The best fishing for the kids would be go down in the platform under the gates on the closed gates below the dam with a hand line.
Right.
So,
It's pretty good.
That was kind of a funny game between usually whoever the local warden was and the kids under the dam.
Right.
Warden would wait up there mornings, and the minute he'd show up, it would be like a flock of flies going in all. But some of the wardens was great. I mean, they really left a great impression on the kids by using them right.
Sure. That's what it's all about.
What really agitated some of the guides, though, is some of the kids found out that there was bad days on the lake fishing. So if a guide come in with clients that hadn't caught any fish all day, and some kid wanted to sell him a string of 3-pound salmon for a dime a piece.
It's pretty lucrative then, probably. Yeah.
Them are some of the far out stories that actually took place.
Yeah.
That's how it was back then, though. Nowadays, you'd be in federal penitentiary if you get caught doing anything like that. But back then, it's everyday living.
Yeah.
So, when did you start like trapping and hunting? Just right as a kid? Were you trapping then?
Right in the lumber camps as a kid. I remember the very first mink I ever caught on my own. The first otter.
Yeah.
Cat. Every animal. I remember the first ones.
Yeah.
Circumstances.
Just for our listeners out there, Roger's a tremendous trapper, but puts up, I would say, probably a better piece of fur than anybody in the state of Maine, I would say. His work is impeccable. It's very impressive, but I figured we should talk about his trapping a little bit.
Well, you haven't seen all of that yet. There's a lot of fur out there, much better than mine.
Well, from what I've seen, I guess I should say you're top of the ladder.
That's one of the things that I'm beginning to realize, like with the older generation they're such modest, humble people that you can say whatever you want, whether it's the truth or not, they're going to deny it until they can't deny it no more.
Yeah. So you trapped right out of the lumber camps, and
Yes.
wow, all on foot and snowshoes, I assume.
And probably about 50% legal.
Seasonal.
But then, like Earl Bonus said, that was a different era.
Right.
Back then, trapping was a good part of a lot of people's incomes in these small rural towns like this as well.
It was very big in places. I was at the end of a period where, for instance, beaver and mink and some of the furs were worth a month's pay for a man that worked in the woods by hand.
Wow.
I mean, the beaver would sell it. The way they measure them is $1 an inch, and a blanket beaver, measured 60 inches, 65 inches. So, and they did get as high as $1 an inch for beaver hides in one period.
When was that, Roger?
I believe that was about the time I was born, in that area, probably from the late 30s to the mid or late 40s.
What are they at now?
I'm not sure of them prices and times, but I know people that are expert at the histories of that and everything going on.
Yeah, now they just sell them by the pound.
Well, that was done way back originally.
Was
they
it?
sold them. They used them primarily for felt at that time.
Right.
That's all they wanted. They didn't care about the quality of whether you cleaned the fur out and had it pretty shiny.
Yeah, it's come full circle then.
So, like for a 65-inch beaver, if I understand him correctly, that would have been $65 back then.
Back then.
And a 65-inch beaver nowadays is going to bring what, 20, 30 bucks?
$20,
Yeah.
$30,
And
yeah.
we're talking 80 years
80,
later,
yeah.
where the value of the dollar now
Yeah.
is a lot higher than what it was 80 years ago, and they're bringing 50% less
Yeah,
than what they
back in
brought
those
then.
days, the trappers were some of the wealthiest people around, right? I mean,
Well, no, because that wasn't year round. That was just a period
Right.
when the fur was prime
sure.
on it. And yeah, there was wealthy trappers like there's wealthy janitors,
Right.
anybody else, But the trappers is more in the class of the woodsman.
Right.
They was one of the biggest worries was getting rid of the money. When they got the pay, they want to see how fast they got paid.
Yeah, well,
The woodsmen would go to town. They had no trouble at all. So
yeah. Brandon and I have that same problem nowadays.
We're just wondering what we can buy for another
Yeah,
dog or a
yeah.
snowmobile to beat
Trucks,
on. Or
not every
trucks.
year for decades, though.
Yeah, no, right.
The woodsmen, I actually grew up with and knew of some of the woodsmen that took their spring check. They'd go in the woods in the fall when it freeze up. Mm-hmm. Usually November, getting things ready and everything. And then they'd come out when it broke up in the spring. This breakup would be when the ice went and they couldn't log on the ice. And they'd get their one check, go to Bangor to some of the famous places that catered to woodsmen, which was downtown hotels on Hancock Street or somewhere.
The end of the tough road.
Back then, and they'd spend the money. In fact, I actually knew some of them that they would give their check to the hotel manager.
Wow.
Have him. He was the bookkeeper, and they check with him once in a while and say if I got any left.
Got any credit left?
Well,
Yeah. No, it's amazing though, like how times have changed, like
Yeah.
from now to then. Like you're talking about, they were in the woods till spring
Yeah.
breakup. Like they weren't out every
Right.
day. Like you go to the gas station every day. When they went in the woods, they were in the woods
it was
until
that
it was over.
permanent, right?
So like when they come off and went to spring breakup and they're doing what you said, like that was their vacation. That was their time. Now we go on vacation, we go out
Yeah.
west or we go to a different country.
Yeah.
Like their vacation was go to the big city of Bangor or Holton and go to one of these hotels that you're talking about there. Like things have completely changed.
Yeah.
But the biggest class of men that was in that category was not family men. Wasn't married, didn't have families,
Right.
and so
Now,
back to skip by something pretty quick that we was talking about because I don't want people to misinterpret that. My knowledge of when the fur price was really high, 30s and 40s, and beaver had been almost extinct. Beaver had been almost extinct for a period of time, and there was no beaver trapping in Maine.
Wow.
Period.
Wow.
And I was acquainted and worked with some guys that was around when they first opened up the beaver season in the state.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, the first place that was open, I believe was in the 30s. And I'm not sure of any dates, and I'm not positive of some of the prices I quoted for you. But there are people in the state that I know have them records. They have the actual records, what trappers was paid for fur back then, and
Yeah.
how long that period lasted. So I'm just telling you some pretty rough information.
Well, it's all history.
it is, and it's one of the things that baffles me, and maybe you can touch on this a little bit. It's like muskrat. Back in the day, muskrat, until not too long ago, muskrat trapping was a big thing.
Yeah, because that was one of the easiest things too, and it held a value for a long period of time. I living in town, I used to walk down to the mouth of Grand Lake Stream, which is 2 or 3 miles
Right.
down there, and had an old canoe, and I'd go out trapping, and I started doing that at about 11 to 12 years old. Mm-hmm. And I'd get a ride back to town with some of the old people that lived at the mouth of the stream.
Right.
Back then, they'd feel sorry for me out there before school, like trapping muskrats. And that would be people named Hill and Olive Gould.
Down Gould
One of
Landing
the
and
original settlers down the mouth of the stream
Yeah.
after tannery days.
right.
That was a big place back in the tannery days.
Now, do you remember what muskrats were bringing back then?
I remember distinctly because for years and years I averaged $1.10 or $1.15 a piece, and that was pretty good back then for a kid.
And there was a lot of rats back then, right? Compared to
Yeah,
now, it doesn't seem like there's so many.
like other animals, like in the class of snowshoe hares, rabbits that are prey for so many other animals. Mm-hmm. They'd have up years and down years.
Yeah,
But muskrats would get really plentiful.
yeah,
Like some of the experienced trappers that I dealt with, and one of them that was my mentor that I come up with was a guy named Eddie Chambers.
yeah,
And he was a quality trapper. He let all the other guys in town would go set up like beaver houses, and he might wait a week till it was all done. Then he'd go set his line of traps, but he'd end up with maybe not the most, but the best beaver.
right?
He'd get the smart ones.
Yeah. And the muskrats would, we could look at a bog like the mouth of Grand Lake Stream might be good for a couple hundred rats altogether.
Wow.
Big Musquash Stream would be up probably the thousands.
Wow.
The whole water
Sure.
trapping area that was open water early. Little Musquash, Clifford Stream,
Yeah,
and I trapped all them as a kid.
yeah,
So there was very little competition. People wouldn't. I'd drag a canoe on the ice from the mouth of Grand Lake Stream up to Little Musquash or Clifford
yeah.
2 days before the ice went out. So I'd get over there before some of the older trappers would
Right.
be there,
Yeah,
and you'd have to drag it across rotten ice
yeah.
and be ready to jump in the canoe when you
Went through.
stepped through. Yeah, there's one guy still living in town. That's one of my best friends, and we grew up and spending a lot of time together in lumber camps. And he's been with me on a couple of them excursions, and he never turned into a trap or anything. Now I always wondered why. It might be because he went on some of them trips with
Yeah,
me.
you can ruin them pretty quick.
But he was with me when we done things like dragged a canoe across the Little Musquash. And 2 days later, a couple of the older trappers would show up the minute the ice went out of the lake and see us over there stretching muskrats and just scratch their head.
Yeah. You had a good plan then.
How many muskrats do you think you'd catch in a season as a kid?
I never caught a lot of them. I probably never caught over 100 as a kid doing that. But that would be a big catch here.
Well, I mean, say $100 a piece. Back then, $100, that's a couple months' wages for a working man.
But there are, there's people now, and there was then in other places that would catch hundreds and thousands of rats.
That's crazy.
So that's a big number in places where the rats are real plentiful.
And nowadays, geez, I don't know if you could catch 100 if you really wanted to. You don't see the rat houses anymore.
I don't know what the reason for that is. And I've noticed diseases in them. I've still, up until recent years, I'd go out and catch a few rats,
Right.
For old time's sake.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
usually if you trapped any water animal, you always ended up catching quite a few muskrats.
Right.
You trap, whether you targeted mink, otter, or beaver.
Yeah.
Hey guys, shout out to Northwoods Outdoor Supply, proud sponsor of Through the Eyes of a Maine Guide podcast. If you guys find yourself in Aroostook County and need any ammunition, firearms, fishing supplies, or any outdoor supplies in general, swing in and see what they have. They have a large variety of firearms, ammunition, ice fishing supplies, regular fishing supplies, and just outdoor supplies in general. Stop in and talk to Brandon. If you don't have it, I'm sure he can get it for you. They're located right in the Martins Plaza next to Martins and Tractor Supply. So make sure you stop in and show your support and say hi. So you talked a lot about water trapping. Did you ever do trap for coyotes or bobcat or anything like that?
The only land animal that I remember in my youth growing up to trap was most beaver trappers set bobcat traps because there was a bounty on them up until it was up until
71 or something.
mid-60s, late 60s.
Yeah. You gave me a paper on when I still got it in my garage of the last year they paid the bounty on bobcats.
Really?
And lynx.
Yep.
And lynx.
And lynx?
Yes.
I worked with a biologist back then against the bounty, and that was right in the prime of me hunting bobcats.
Yeah.
Not in your class.
Well, it's a different time.
But I did good back then. I had a good dog, and I found out the secrets of what it takes to be, a good bobcat hunter. And so I did okay, but I didn't have the tools to work with back then.
No, the roads or anything. I remember I think one of the first times you ever went with me was me, you, and David, and I think we'd killed a cat in the morning, and I remember we found another track out there by Fifth Machias somewhere, and it was like a day old or something, and it was going off into a big piece of woods, and I got out and looked at the track, and I said, well, it's kind of old, and no other roads out there. And I said, we'll go find another one. And he looked at me like I had three heads. He goes, what? And I said, we'll go find another track. And he said, well, there's a track right there. And I said, well, it's kind of old. And he just looked at me like something wrong with me.
If the bobcat isn't dead, he's on the other end of it.
He was from the school of you found a bobcat track. You put your Iversons on and you followed him, right? And came out with him.
I still hunted after I went to work for the state. 60s and early 70s, I still had the love for hunting the bobcats with the dogs, and I did quite a bit of it in the mid 60s.
Yeah.
But the oldest one I recall was it was in this area toward Fort Machias. I had been to meetings in Augusta, and all week, and I come back on Wednesday night or Thursday. But it was Thursday anyway, and I had another hunter with me. We just had my dog, because we usually just hunted him alone. And we went out toward Fourth Lake, and of course there was a bunch of other bobcat hunters around then too, on the plowed roads. And we see a note stuck on the snowbank on one, and it said this, he had seen this track Sunday, and probably was made Friday or Saturday. And we hunted for a track probably from daylight till about 10 in the morning, didn't. So I looked at the other guy and I said, that they probably haven't killed that cat. He's on the other end of the track, so we went back and we ended up killing that cat before dark.
No, was that track initialed in the snow, you're saying? I know we used to do that. I remember when I first started, we'd initial a track. Mm-hmm.
No, they just left a paper note.
They left a paper note.
A cardboard note, and it was from another local hunter that Bobby Bacon.
Oh yeah. Okay. So what do you figure that track was? 3-4 days old or something?
Oh, at least 4 or 5 days old by record on that. But
wow.
but the point is that doesn't make a lot of difference. You knew your dog and you knew the cat.
That's right.
And you knew cats like you do now. So if that track was 3 weeks old, it was a medium size or a female cat early in the winter.
Yeah.
And that cat most likely would never be out of the range you could walk in a day.
No
matter how old that track was. That was that living range.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, but then you needed the dog could sort out weeks worth of tracks and deer yards and everything else.
Get on the freshest enemy. You know how it is. You follow a cat and a cat will take you to other cats or get in like he's saying, and they've been in there living or killed something and.
Yeah, when it's days old, the chances are you're going to run into that same cat with the track an awful lot fresher.
That's right.
It's a lot like deer, too, though. Like, you follow a deer track,
sure.
and if it's a single doe or a small buck, like, you follow that, they're going to lead you to other deer. Like,
that's right.
They all inhabit together there.
Yeah. There's a lot of little things like that in hunting, no matter what you hunt or trap, that you never end up learning.
So you do it.
Most people that live with nature and in the woods, figure out you never learn it all.
No, that's right. You're always learning if you're doing it right.
And the biggest thing is if you're willing to learn, you're always going to learn. Like there's so much there's people out there like Roger, like you, a bunch of other people that I can pick the phone up and call or talk to like this, and whether you guys realize it or whatever, like I'll pick one little thing up here or there and learn it and go from it, and
Yep.
It's like I said,
You got to always be learning or willing to learn and paying attention to what you're seeing out there.
and like the one of the biggest things my grandfather told me there as a kid growing up, and he said it numerous times. He's like, "You listen with your ears, not with your mouth. If you're willing to sit
point.
there and listen, you will learn a lot from people that are willing.
Pretty
to
good advice in any profession.
That's right. That's right.
It really is, and that's like a lot of the people that come on and they want to learn about this. Like if you're sitting there and you're jaw jacking nonstop, telling me what I'm doing and all this stuff, why would anybody want to give you any information to help you? Because you're coming across as you know more than they do already.
Yeah.
Well, before you get off the hunting and the subjects like the bobcat hunting, there was several good bobcat hunters in the state, more than I probably knew. But there was 10 times as many that didn't know what they were doing.
That's right.
On
Still is.
yeah, yeah, and there's so many just key values you need to start with. You just need a few key things, and if you got that, you're as good as they get.
Well, me and Paul had this conversation last winter there, and it's one of them things where like you see there's a difference between going out and being there for the dogs than there is for the thrill to kill.
Yep.
And if you got to go out every day to get a picture of killing a cat and just posting it and this and that to drive your ego up, you're not there for the right reasons.
Right.
And nothing makes me any happier than when I get out of the woods, I get cell phone service, and I see Paul will send me 3 or 4 different pictures of a cat that he caught.
Dog spayed and let go.
The hunt was ended, and the cat was left go to run another day. And Dale said it yesterday. He says, I get excited when the hunters look at me and say, do I have to shoot that bear? And Dale's like, no, because if you shoot it, I can't run it another day. Yeah. Like that's a difference between like the people you're talking about. There's people that are in it for the dogs, and there's people that's in it for the thrill to kill. Yep. And that thrill to kill, if you talk to someone long enough or whatever, there you can decipher what it is there.
Yep.
And that's a very, very important part that we really, especially with Facebook and all this other stuff coming up, that it'd be nice to like educate some of these people on, because we're our own worst enemies by doing half the stuff that we take and do and how we put it across.
Probably get the same kind of stories from a lot of different hunting professions too. Mm-hmm. No matter what it is, if it's deer, moose, or small game, or birds.
It all ravels or wraps, so it intertwines into the same thing. It's all the same core value, whether it's bear, moose, deer, elephant, zebra, or what it is. Everything comes together really in the same value, and it's how you portray it as a guide or as a professional hunter or as an outdoorsman is how it's sold. And I'm sorry, I just got a little distracted. There was about an 18-inch fish I just watched come up out of the water there by that buoy. That was pretty interesting. So yeah, there is fish down here.
Before we get done with bobcats, we got to have you tell us about this bobcat that you had as a pet or whatever for a little bit.
I ended up with a young bobcat that was still nursing. My estimate, it was probably about 3 weeks old, 2 to 3. His eyes had just opened. And an acquaintance of mine that worked for the timber company that lived right near where I did picked it up in the road and assumed that that it was abandoned or whatever. And he brought it in my place, wanted to know how to get the bounty. He wanted the bounty on it. The bounty
wanted the bounty on it?
Yeah, a little tiny kitten in his pocket. And I said I'd take it and give him the bounty, but I don't think he took the bounty. I don't think I paid him anything. But anyway, I took the bobcat, and I happened to have a house cat nursing kittens, about the age of the bobcat. Their eyes had opened, and surprisingly, she took the bobcat right in and let him nurse.
No kidding.
So that's what I'll give him his good start. And in the house and his association with people, he nursed for a few weeks, right with a litter of house cats.
So, I want to stop you there for a second, because you just proved a point that I think is very crucial. That as outdoorsmen, we need to spread the word. A guy come to you with a bobcat that there was a bounty for at the time, and you've been talking about how you've been a bobcat hunter, a fisher, trapper, outdoorsman your whole life, and for you to say, I'll give you that bounty on my own money, but I'm going to take that cat and try to give it the opportunity to survive, to live, to release back into the wild. That right there goes to show that as outdoorsmen and that stuff, we're more for the animals than what people think we are. We're not there just to kill them. We care more about the animals than what people lead on to believe. That should be a strong message to go out to everyone that's on the fence. I mean, as the houndsmen, that stuff that get bad names, this is coming from a houndsman that released that cat. Well, we ain't finished the story yet, but I'm assuming end up releasing it into the story, into the woods.
Yeah, I'm not totally against bounties. I think there might be a place for them, I'm sure. But it's difficult to make them work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and to have people enforcing it like the trappers and the hunters, do it with the right attitude and know really why they're doing it, if it's a legitimate cause. Generally, there's only one cause, and I guess it has to be legitimate because man wants it that way.
Right.
You know, they're more valuable to man than they are. So, you know, it's like today, you know, kill every coyote that exists because we like deer better.
Yeah.
On it. So there's always two sides to the story, and even no matter how strong you believe, you've got to be able to listen to both sides.
100%.
To people. And if you don't respect other people, you know, the non-hunters we call them, and non, you know, users of game. You don't, if you don't respect them and don't try to understand it, then you can't expect it. Vice versa.
100%. Well said.
So I always believed that way. And back to the Bobcat, and it was just all kinds of funny episodes with him. I raised him till he was a couple of years old, and of course he was fat. And he probably weighed 30-some pounds.
Wow.
On it. If he was in the wild, he'd probably be a 20-pound Bobcat.
Right.
But
Was it a Tom?
it was a Tom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my wife had a beagle at the time, it was a miniature beagle, about half as big as a common beagle. And she just loved it. And he grew up with a Bobcat.
Huh.
So they grew up tearing the house apart, chasing each other back and forth the house. You know, they'd go across the couch, and the beagle would be after the Bobcat, and he'd go up across the curtains.
Wow.
And some awful actions in the house, but it was always funny and so entertaining
Yeah.
that she put up with it.
Yeah.
But then, after he got to be about probably a year and a half or so old, we'd hear him off playing in the house somewhere, and he'd make these funny noises, be going, row, row, row. And what he'd do, and I'd go in and catch him riding the beagle. so that caused some disagreement with my wife.
I bet.
Get your damn Bobcat off my beagle.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. And the other thing was he was a stranger around company.
Yeah.
And so when somebody come in the house, strange, if it was you or anybody, come in the house, it was a stranger, Bobcat would hide, but he'd be right there somewhere, and he'd show up shortly. But you sit down on the couch, and all of a sudden his ears would be laid back, and you'd see these big eyes peeking up over there at the other end of the couch.
Oh, boy.
Or out behind a chair or something like that, but he'd stare a hole right through you.
I bet. 30-pound Bobcat's nothing to mess with.
Now, did he ever get aggressive?
The only time he was aggressive, the only time he got aggressive is if there was something that he wanted to eat in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like if my wife let him get too close to something she was roasting, meat roast in the oven or something like that, then he'd go right over there and growl at her. You know, he'd want to grab it. But if he got a hold of a piece of wild meat off a sideboard or something like that, you just left him alone. Mm-hmm. You know, you'd have to get physical. You'd have to beat him off it or something. He was really protective.
Huh.
Yeah.
But I at that time, I was trapping beaver that winter, and I was skinning my beaver down in the basement at a table like this. And I'd be tacking them on the boards or skinning them out on top of the table. And the other side of the table, I'd see this big paw come up, feeling for the hide. He'd get his claws in the beaver hide. He'd start pulling it out. I'd whack him with a foot.
Yeah.
And the only thing I got him to respect was a broom.
Huh.
A broom?
A broom. He got scared of a broom. I had to physically whip him off a dog with a broom one time.
Yeah.
And it was our best friends had one of them little white poodle type dogs. Come in, they come right in the house unexpected, and the little dog come running right in with them. And just like a shot, like a falcon coming out of a tree, that bobcat come out, grabbed the poodle, and went in the other room and upstairs with it.
He probably thought it was snowshoe hair.
Right. Yeah, and he went under the bed with it. He hadn't heard it yet, but the pup was really squealing.
I bet.
So I took the broom to him that time and got the dog away from him.
Huh.
So I had to be careful around little dogs.
Yeah.
And he used to ride in the truck with me. I'd take him in my pickup truck with me quite often, like you'd take a pet dog. And he was pretty good acting, but real observant. He'd stand up with his feet on the dash, watching everything. But if we went by a dog on the street, then he acted, growled, and he acted like he wanted to get out of the truck and get after him. I ended up getting rid of him because he was getting hard to handle. We kept an outside cage when we went away. I didn't want to leave him in the house. And when I'd go get him out of the cage and bring him to the house, he'd purr just like a house cat would. It sounded like a little chainsaw going.
Yeah.
But when I took him back to the cage, whether it was a few hours or a day, when I took him back, he's like a lion. He's just a deep growl all the way. You know?
We've heard that
most people
sound.
be scared to death.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, did you end up just releasing him right here local, or?
No, I knew a guy that had a permit to keep a live one in his dooryard that owned the lodge. I did some guiding for him for bobcat hunting. It was Finley Clark.
I've heard that name.
He was one of the.
He was one of the first
Guys
the
associated.
MPGA.
Yeah, okay.
one of the first big bear hunters.
Yeah.
He started in the state, and I started guiding bobcat hunters for him.
Yeah.
And so I give him to him. And he lived up in Morrill there above Patton,
Okay.
on that lodge.
I think I remember Donnie talking
Oh
something
yeah.
about
Well,
him having
Finley
a
was one of
bobcat.
the first. He was the Donnie. I mean, they were the first ones that kind of started the MPGA.
Gotcha.
Yes, and he ran for the legislature to get in. He had such a nasty attitude. I was surprised he did get in the legislature.
Right. Right.
I got some stories about guiding for him that was pretty interesting with, but I don't want to take all days.
Well, let's share them. We got some more time.
Yeah.
This is what it's all about.
You know, with the bobcat hunting, I did great. I had my dog, and he was sired by a dog that was even better than him, for sure. That was Ash Peasley's Blue Boy.
Yeah. That's a famous
Back.
dog and cat hunter.
He was a top notch in the state back then. But Ash was one of the toughest men in the woods until I met him. But he was a
Did you
big.
say tough or numb?
Full of both. Well, if you're going to cat hunt every day, you got to be both.
He was a big man with a military career. He was in Derby's Rangers back in World War II.
Yeah.
And he just was something else. But him and I had the only two dogs that would always do better hunting alone. They were so vicious, you know. They did twice as good hunting alone. And the way we had to hunt back then, it would be difficult to do it like with Paul. You didn't want an extra dog making extra tracks, whether they were
Right.
good or not. Because you had to do some hard figuring, and if you made a mistake, you walked 4 hours for absolutely nothing. On that following day's old tracks and through deer yards. And both of them was true enough on bobcats. And we knew the dogs well enough, so we knew when they was we hunted on bare ground some in October.
Okay.
We'd take them out and rode them like they would a bear strike dog or something on the road.
Yeah.
They'd run deer, foxes, whatever, and but come right back.
Yeah.
And we knew immediately when they hit an old bobcat track made in the night.
Sure.
And without any radio callers or anything like that, we had to also know the dogs well enough and know the country well enough. Because they definitely were going to get out of your hearing for a long time. So we had to do some good guessing on getting them. But we'd consistently kill cats by doing that.
Wow.
We've gone out 5 mornings in a row, killed 5 cats.
On bare ground.
On bare ground, and some of them was long hunts out in that Monroe Lake country.
Yeah.
With Hogue.
I've heard a lot of stories, but I don't know if many people can say they killed 5 on bare ground.
My
5
dog,
days in a
In
row.
5 days in a row.
my dog was as good as his on that. Anybody see a cat, and if I got there during the day, they could see it going to work in the morning. If I go there in the afternoon, my dog would still find it.
Boy, that's
Normally.
impressive.
With no technology too, like no GPS
No.
calls, no telemetry calls. This is
Nothing.
bare. This is old school bare ground. Like this is when dogs were made to be dogs
Men were men.
and men were men. Yeah,
One day doing that on the trip, it was out in the Monroe Lake country. We started a cat and probably had gone 5 miles or so, and the dog found a den on the way on the old cat track, and we didn't know what it was. We didn't realize it was a den back then, but the bobcat had just been in a hole, we thought,
Right.
because he kept out after it. We killed the bobcat probably a couple hours later.
Yeah.
And we started way in between Walmatog and Clifford Stream.
Yeah.
We killed it on the horseback on the south branch of Little River.
Yeah.
Across all them
Sure.
swamps. And on the way out, we backtracked on some of them old roads, and the dog went back to that hole and barked. So I told my partner, that was Ash Peasley, I said, we got to check in that before we go. So I went over and crawled in the den ways. It wasn't very deep. Just get in on my hands and knees, and there was 3 young kittens there. And we knew we'd killed the female. And their eyes hadn't opened, it was just starting to. They was younger than the one I had raised. But I put them all in my coat pocket and took them home and immediately called the biologist, the warden up. They didn't have anything to do with them, you know. And I didn't have a cat to nurse them like the other one.
Right.
So I just took their advice and tried to feed them some warm baby formula or warm canned milk stuff, but they didn't make it. They died.
Huh.
And I do remember trying to get them moved down to see if they could do anything, take care of them down at the Gray Game Farm.
Yeah.
They had that then. And with no luck.
what time of year was that?
That was September.
Yeah, see, and
I
now
remember that. That was the last day of September. And them kits had just been born that month.
with the season framework now being where it is in December and January, you wouldn't run into a situation like that.
No,
Just for the people out there listening, like this is back when there was a bounty,
No season, right?
and no
Back then?
season on them. That nowadays we're not hunting during when they're the den period when they have their kits and that stuff. Like it's well beyond that, and the kits can survive.
I truly believe in cats that happens quite often. There's late litters like that. But I think they hardly ever survive. So, Paul, you'll probably never run into cats in midwinter that weighed much less than 10 pounds.
No, I've seen some small.
They just don't live.
Right, that's right. They just
track
they
size
don't
of a
stand
house
chance.
cat.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's what you saying though. That's the same as like coyotes. Like you see the litters of pups that are late in the season. Like you'll see all these little pups running around in the fall and that stuff. But once we get snow, you don't see them little pups. Like you see the earlier on pups. The little pups, it's almost like they ain't been taught how to hunt and that stuff. So Mother Nature takes care of it, and they're gone as it is. But I got one question for you, Roger. And I know this is kind of like a hot topic and like heated debate amongst most of you cat hunters now. And it seems like everybody that's killing cats and putting pictures on Facebook is killing a 45-pound tom consecutively day in, day out. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think some of it might be exaggerated, which it surely always was. Mm-hmm. But some of it could be true to unusual circumstances. A 30-pound tomcat in normal, good, slim shape probably could gorge 5 to 10 pounds of meat into them if you got them off a kill. I see a couple of cats that they claimed weighed 40 pounds or 41 pounds. And they wasn't any bigger than a 30-pound cat. They were just butterballs.
Depends on what's in their stomach.
Just real butterballs on it.
Yeah.
And sometimes if they're luck into really good feed, they can probably naturally be real heavy, but you don't find many of them covered with fat.
No, biggest one I ever killed was 42 pounds.
Biggest one I ever killed with pictures, and that was weighed on legitimate scales in the post office. and it weighed 40 and a half.
Yeah.
So
And it was a huge, lengthy cat. There wasn't any fat on him, but he was healthy.
Sure.
how many cat harvests do you think you've been a part of over the years?
I don't know. My one dog, I killed quite a few cats with a couple other dogs, but never got anywhere near 100 cats with them. But the one dog I had, I probably killed close to 200 cats.
So
I killed over 100 and some with him before I went in the service, I think.
really?
And then I didn't keep track of some, and I let a warden supervisor in the area in Calais, old Lloyd Clark. Mm-hmm. He was a super good, one of the older bobcat hunters. He took my dog and used him for last year I was in the service.
Yeah. Now, Lloyd, he was the one that said there was no such thing as a 40-pound bobcat, but there was such a thing as a 35-pound cat with 5 pounds of deer meat in his stomach, right?
Well,
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
that's where I was trying to go with that, with the credibility. I mean, would it be safe to say that you've seen 500 cats? You've harvested 500 cats in your lifetime?
Not that I killed, but probably, yeah.
You've been a part of, you've been there.
Yes,
Witness.
like with Ash Beasley. We'd kill 3 or 4 a lot of days.
Yeah. So you figured that, say, be conservative, I'll say 400 cats. How many cats do you think you've been?
Well, I've kept track, and I'm pretty close to 500 that I've harvested with clients. And everything.
Roughly 1,000 cats weighed between the two of you.
Yeah.
The biggest one you've ever seen is 40 and a half, and the biggest one you've ever seen is 42.
Yeah.
I've seen a 44-pound one.
You have seen
One
a
Ash
44?
Beasley got up on Baskegan ground,
Yeah.
and he weighed that on the same post office scales.
Yeah.
That was a huge, huge animal. And I think he only killed 3 or 4. Went over 40 pounds.
Yeah, that's about.
But
I killed 3.
Yeah.
And the biggest one was 42.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I've heard about a lot of 50-pound cats,
Yeah.
55-pound cats, but it's like a lot of things, but you just got to see them.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing in the same area of believing and not believing on all these wild stories is the mountain lion.
Right.
Now, the last bounty paper to give out, the bounty on when they took it off the bobcats, there was still the bounty on mountain lion and lynx and Canada lynx.
Yeah.
And I know a guy that killed the last Canada lynx that I saw and collected a bounty on. He killed it on Brewer Lake.
Wow.
Outside the town of Brewer.
Yeah.
Really? They were down that far south then?
And I've seen 2 tracks down across the airline in my hunting times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they never was seen again. I think they were one of them. They're like other animals. Some wolves might wander 100 miles. Some will go 500 miles. When they're dispersing.
Yeah.
Right.
The dispersal thing of it. And I suspect lynx and big cats, bigger the animal, probably the further their range will go.
Oh, some of them lions out west go tremendous distance.
I forget what they called them on the bounty paper.
Yeah,
catamount.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think it was catamount.
Really?
Yeah.
And you have one of them bounty papers?
I still got it in my garage. I'll have to go get it this afternoon.
I like to look at that and see that.
I never got my hands on one. I never kept one of the old bounty papers where it did list them.
The mountain lions?
Yeah, and lynx.
Was there ever a mountain lion shot that that was claimed a bounty on?
No.
No.
Not that I know of.
Not that I've ever heard of.
But I've had my mind blown out of the water here a few times in my career. I've got some good, respectable friends that swear on the Bible. They saw him clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of them you probably know was a good personal friend of mine, Jack McPhee.
Yeah, I know the name, yep.
He was the warden pilot that started the Kanamack Lodges.
Yeah, that's right. McCann, him and Susan, yeah.
Okay, so he did almost all the radio telemetry work for the Fish and Game when they first started doing that. I think he did pine marten and lynx and bear. And he was somebody familiar with animals.
Sure.
And he'd been bobcat hunting with me when he was a warden down here in Calais. That's where he started work.
Right.
So, but he's only one. I've got 2 or 3 other friends that I wouldn't dare to call them liars at their face.
Right.
I think what you said though, Roger, when you're just talking about how different animals roam different areas, I'm not saying there ain't never been one like through the state of Maine or through the area, but I don't believe they live here.
No.
Like they might roam through or come in and turn around and go back to the territory, which 100% that's believable. But living here is a different thing between passing and living.
I believe like you, and I think what happens it's just a rare occurrence, but it's not unusual to have one show up in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
They last year, or year before, they killed the one in Connecticut
Mm-hmm.
that had come from the Lake States, and it come further west
From
than
the
that.
Dakotas or
It
somewhere.
was tagged.
Yeah.
It was tagged, I think, wasn't it? So,
Yeah,
so
something.
there was no question.
They had ear tags and tattoos.
Nobody give him a ride to Connecticut.
No.
Well,
Sure, so.
you need to go fish right there. I just watched another two jump right by that buoy. You can still see the ripples.
The Grand Lake Stream Sporting Association, I think, has them trained.
Yeah.
Yeah, they must, because
I
like
put them out here,
we
so
should-
keep my guest interested.
We should just turn the camera around that way. I mean, we get some pretty good footage because that's. I mean, I watched 2 or 3 different times. I mean, that's not a slouch of a fish either.
My pet.
Off the Bobcats. As Peasley probably was the toughest, most persistent man in the woods that I ever had run into that had everything it takes to be a good bobcat hunter, whatever. So he come along, and it didn't take long. The first year, he's just like him. He's not as big and rugged, but I guarantee you, he could outwalk the guy
Yeah.
and then stay in the woods longer and not come out dry, but he come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he knew. But the key things was you had to have love for the animals,
Yeah.
dog and the cat.
Yeah.
But you had to have enough wildlife knowledge and be observant to get to know cats. You also had to know dogs good. Dogs like people. There's dumb ones and there's smart ones.
Yeah.
And everything in between.
All different personalities.
Yeah, they all do.
And the
But
cat
if you get a
dogs are
good dog, and the dog's got the few good things it takes, then there's some things you train them on. You can train them on discipline-wise, and and coming back to you. Breaking them from deer never was a problem with me. I wanted a pup that would run anything that had a scent in the woods. You give them reason to not want to chase the deers and love chasing the bobcats, and you don't give up. And you can read your dog. It's almost like you got a unspoken language, and that happens between a lot of people in animals. Horsemen.
Yeah.
People with horses and certain animals can just have a connection.
Yeah.
And you understand it without a doubt
Right.
what that dog means when you hear him barking a mile away,
Yeah.
what's happening, and the dog knows you're going to be there.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing. Like
gotta have the
you
faith
said
in
it
each
was
other.
don't give up. And that's
Don't
with
ever
cat
do-
hunting. Don't
let-
look back.
No.
Dude, don't let the dog know you've give up.
That's right.
So,
That's right. Don't even make a quitter out of them.
and then other people like that had good dogs, they don't recognize a good dog.
Right.
There's 20 times as many super good dogs, hunting dogs, whether you want to retrieve waterfowl with them or whether you want to hunt cats with them or bear, than people realize because they don't recognize them. They don't give the dog credit.
Right.
They give up or they discipline them for the wrong reason. The worst thing in the world on a bobcat dog, I know different people have had decent dogs, and all of a sudden they put them on a bobcat track 2 or 3 days old that isn't very interested, but they'll chase it, and they run into a bunch of deer and chase a deer.
Yeah.
So he's gone for a couple of hours. The dog come back. The guy beat the hell out of the dog with a snowshoe.
Right.
Well, he beat him for coming back to him.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all the dog knows.
Right.
He's, what did I do wrong?
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, Al here. I just want to take a minute to talk about our wool gear. Our Big Woods Bucks wool gear it's the best value there is on the market. We have 100% virgin wool clothing, whether it's our packs, pants, jackets, whatever. The virgin wool it's the natural fiber from the sheep, and it wraps into a tight thread. That's what makes it waterproof, pretty much wind resistant, and comfortable to wear. It's quiet for hunting, especially in the big woods. You can't find anything better than wool clothing. So we have ours. It's all made in USA with all U.S. accessories and everything. We've got, years of experience guiding, and it's thought that's going into this stuff. So we've tried to keep the average hunter in mind and kept the price point at where people can afford it. We hope you enjoy it. Wear your woolies. Cotton is death.
I remember one of my first times hunting with Roger. We're hunting with that Susie dog I had, and she was young then, and she treated a cat. Well, the chase just ended, and I was wondering what the hell was going on, and Roger says, "The cat's in that tree right there," and I couldn't see anything. I said, "Well, how do you know?" And he pointed. There was a little bark on the snow.
Yeah.
And I never forgot that, and I found a lot of cats a dog couldn't locate since then, but he could just see that fresh bark was kicked out on the snow, and we got looking around. Sure enough, that cat was up that tree, but I learned a lot from just the little I hunted with you.
I remember one of the things I wanted to give you for advice that week. I went with you 5 mornings, and we killed a cat every morning.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
And had no reason for killing them all.
Right.
Wasn't guiding. There was no bounty on
Right.
them. Other than giving your dog a taste to train your dog. And I said, this isn't the right way to do it. You can't kill every cat you find.
Yeah.
Especially if you get a quality dog and you know what you're doing.
Right.
You can kill everyone you find.
But you put yourself out of cats to chase. But I learned that.
Yeah, that's right. You put the kid, you affect the cat's population.
Oh, yeah.
You're disrupting that and not getting the gain from your livelihood, making your living.
Yeah. No, that's right. Took me a few years, but I figured it out. Now, if I had it my way, we wouldn't even kill one. I just like chasing them, and I say, dead bobcats don't leave tracks.
Well, young people are like young dogs.
Yeah.
We have a taste for it.
That's
killed
right.
more my share of
That's
deer
right.
around town when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So.
We all go through it, but you got to be smart enough to learn and adapt and figure it out rather than.
The thing is, if you're gonna do it, don't be the one complaining because there ain't none to run or there
Yeah.
ain't none here. If you're the one doing it.
Yeah, that's right.
And I never did much guiding. I guided way back from in the late 50s, early, when the Stan Lean started the lodge up here. I guided some deer hunters for him. And I guided for 2 or 3 of the other sporting camps in town, some. And then when I went to work with the state, I didn't do much guiding until I got in a position, winters, working year round. Then I could take my time on my days off and do some guiding in November.
You did a fair amount of moose guiding, didn't you?
That was after I retired from the state job, and I got my experience and training before they had any moose hunts.
Right.
When I was a kid.
Okay.
But I thought I'd like doing that, so I did that when I retired from the state. I didn't know what I was going. I wanted to do something in the woods, so I started the consultant forestry business, which I was on my own, and wanted to try the moose hunts. And I just discovered that the moose was plentiful here. We had an explosion in them just about the right time for that. And I said, nobody's doing any canoe hunting. Everybody's hunting. 95% of the hunting's done from the seat or the back of a pickup truck, riding around, looking at cuts, like it still is up north mostly. There's very few guys now who've wised up and say, we'll take them on a real moose hunt. So, and so that turned out real successful, but I really lucked out. I guided 3 or 4 guys in Grand Lake here that was really concerned about getting a big moose. And I said, look, I'll guarantee you to show you, I can guarantee you to show you multiple bull moose every day. But I can't guarantee to show you, one of the biggest bulls, one of the dominant bulls that's around, and say we're going to save him till Friday.
Right.
That don't work.
No.
So as the week goes on, you got to decide how far you want to lower your standards.
Right.
I'll show you the moose are there.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of bull going on about me showing them the tracks, and I tell them that one weighs exactly just 1,020 pounds.
Has a 57.25-inch spread.
But there was a lot of moose, and it was great.
When was
And I got I think I got 7 or 8 moose in a row out of the canoe. With every one of them, I called trophy bulls over between 800 pounds and very few over 1,000. And I didn't weigh many of them because I had to quarter them all
right?
on the canoe hunt.
Yeah.
But I figured, about a 48-inch spread is considered a trophy by most people and hunters.
Right. Yeah, someone will
No
tell you they want a
standards.
50, but they can shoot a
They
48.
have a 48.
I took Lee Whiteley up in Zone 1 and stole one of them from him.
Oh, you did now.
But he shot 3 big moose 3 days in a row.
Who was that?
Lee Whiteley lives in
okay.
town, yeah.
And circumstances, I won't give you all the backgrounds on that story. But I went up a day ahead of time and found 3 areas. I'd look for some of them areas where there's a bunch of moose, if the timing's right in the season. And if you can find some wallows and some big bull tracks, you've got a dominant bull hanging in the area. All them bulls don't go around digging wallow holes and rolling in it. So I had 3 of them. We went to all 3 of them 3 days in a row, and there was a bull moose on every one of them.
And you missed one at each one.
Yeah. The third one we come to, we went to it in the evening. The sun just going down. Sure enough, we drove right up to a big bull standing right in the wallow at the end of a grassy road. We had to come around the corner, so we was within 50 yards of him, and I should have stopped back, but it was late in the day, so I just drove down. Didn't expect him to sit right in the wallow. And so I said, the bull run in the woods. I said, how do you get out of the truck quick, stand right here, and don't wiggle. Just, put a bullet in your gun. And I'm backing out the road, so I kept the truck revved up, and I backed out the road about 200 yards, like I was gone.
Right.
Look, it wasn't 60 seconds. I heard the shot. The bull come walking right back out again.
Wow.
But it was a dominant bull, and it was a big bull, probably not 1,000 pounds, but well over 800. It had about a 50-inch spread. It had 6 points total.
6 points?
Yeah, 6 points total.
Really?
And
Was the paddles all rounded off?
wasn't any paddles. They were just round, big tip to them.
Heavy beams
Really?
and points, yeah.
If there was any paddles, it was just where they separated and it'd be
Yeah.
inches or something. There's no paddles.
More like an elk horn then.
Yeah, it's weird, but it just shows that sometime as them big moose get older, where you get a lot of old moose, you'll get a lot of stunted and odd
go the other way.
antlers, and they go the other
You
way.
said that was in zone 1?
Yeah.
I got a picture here I'll show you after the fact of the matching set of sheds that I found this year that obviously they're not from the same moose there, but maybe the same genetics.
Right.
And he's the same way. We've 50 to 54 is what we figured.
Yep.
And he has, I think that one had like 8 or 9 points, but there's no paddle. They come out like elk antlers,
Yeah.
and they go up.
Probably mass to them.
Yeah, massive, really heavy.
When the big moose was plentiful here,
Yeah.
and we could show people. Dave Toby was under guide and doing good every year too.
Yeah.
Then, and he'd guarantee showing people moose.
Sure. There was a lot of moose around.
Yeah, but we also found some of them weird stunted antlers and then ones with no paddles. It was odd shaped.
So that's other than you saying that, that's really them sheds I found this spring. Like that's the first ones I've seen up there that look like that. I mean, I found it laying on the ground. I'm like, elk out here or something? And you pick it, like the dog carried it back to me, and that's literally what I thought it was like an elk antler, and it's very weird to see. I mean, I found a bunch of like older bulls like on the downhill. The paddles round off, and they just get really heavy mass, and they're not tall, and they lay out flat.
Yep.
But I've never seen one with elk antlers. I say elk antlers, they look like antlers.
Yeah.
Lee must have his right over there.
Yeah, he probably does.
then-
Yep.
You got anything else you want to say?
Nothing special unless you have questions.
What, do you
My,
want to?
my guidance experience is not great. You know, I did quite a lot of hunting, and the moose hunting was good, and I learned the way I wanted to do that. You know, do it ethical, not waste anything.
Yeah.
Check on clients well and see if it's exactly what they wanted. You know, and if they come up dry, then we did everything we were supposed to do.
Right.
And no matter what happens, that's going to happen to you sometime. I got spoiled in the moose hunt. I think I had 6 or 7 all nice trophy bulls in a double-end canoe in a row. You know, every
That's
season.
something to say.
Yeah.
You got any pictures? You got
and,
pictures of that?
A lot of the pictures, yeah.
You do have pictures of that stuff?
And I used the 20-foot tripper
Yeah.
canoes, the very best. And
That's
I've had a big bull, and I got witness to that right in town here. I had a good big bull, one of the between 800 and 900 pounds, 1,000 with the trophy rack, quadded, put in that, and 4 big men.
really
4 big men paddled. I had 3 on all my trips, you know, because they all had a sub. But I had 4 men in the whole moose in the damn canoe, and I
Wow.
still had about 6 inches
Freeboard.
freeboard on it.
that's
But
crazy.
it was like paddling one of them big garbage cows,
Yep.
Yeah.
you know.
That's the reason why I laughed when you said that, because I got an old tripper that we killed a moose on the edge of the Allagash. I say edge, it was like 400 yards off the river, and we either had like a 3-mile pack out or go to the river there. And I got the harebrained idea, I says, well, we'll get it down to the river and we'll get it out.
Yep.
So I was looking, all I had was a little 16-foot Discoveries, and I knew one of the guys in town that had one. I went down, and he's like, yeah, I mean, it's all cracked, like it looks like absolute crap. Took the chainsaw, cut the thwarts out, cut the front seat out, and just left the back seat in it. And now that is the moose retrieval. Like, we paddled moose down the Allagash in it. We paddled moose down the St. John River in it.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And literally, that canoe is nothing. It's not good for anything other than retrieve a moose because everything's cut out of it. But
I never cut anything out, but it's all quadded,
say
backed in then.
that's from now on. That's probably what we're gonna do is quarter them because it's a lot easier. But like
Yeah.
to get a whole moose in a canoe. Like you said, with the first one, there was like 48, 49 inches. And like
Yeah.
just the picture of that and like historic, I was pulling it down the Allagash River, like the history.
That's pretty
and
cool.
to see stuff like that is pretty neat.
That kind of confused me when I've hunted up there. I've killed 6 or 7 moose out of Zone 1
Okay.
and 2 or 3 out of Zone 2. Because my brother's got a camp right there in St. John, or a house. He's part of the Oaks family.
Okay.
They inherited the old Oaks family house
Yeah, yeah.
right there. So I spent quite a lot of time up there.
I'd say 5 years ago, you really didn't see the hunting pressure down there. And now it's when everyone's swapping over doing these wall 10 hunts and do-it-yourself
Right.
hunts. They're going to that the farthest most western point you can get in the zone away from civilization, and they're camping down
Right.
there, and everyone's flocking down there, so they're killing a lot of moose, and there is a lot of nice moose down there.
A lot of pressure because there's so many people got camps now around St. Palmfield.
Yes. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to another episode of Through the Eyes of a Maine Guide down here in Grand Lake Stream. And like I said, our host, Paul Laney, and Roger Milligan sitting as a special guest. Thank you both for coming on, and thank you, Paul, for having us down here and opening up your lodge.
Yep. No, it's been good.
It's
This was a good one.
as I've enjoyed it. It's been
Yeah.
a very interesting conversation, and to me, as listening to all the old stories like the Houndsmen and that stuff, like I've learned a lot, and I really enjoyed hearing it from someone that hunted with dogs way back when out of a car instead of out of a pickup truck. Just to put it into perspective, and with the on snowshoes, no collars and that stuff. So anyone out there, if you're just catching the tail end of this was a very educational piece with 2 probably the best bobcat hunters there is in the state that I know of. And make sure you hit subscribe, follow along, and if you're interested in the cat hunt, be sure to give Paul Laney at Laney's Guide Service a call, and he'll set you right up. Thank you, make some memories, and until next time.